Hello. Okay. Argylle. Matthew Vaughn's latest. I'm a big fan of Matthew Vaughn as a director. I absolutely loved X-Men First Class, Kick-Ass, and the first Kingsman movie. So I'm always looking forward to the new Matthew Vaughn movie. And so yeah, here we've got Argylle. The synopsis is: a reclusive author who writes espionage novels about a secret agent and a global spy syndicate realizes the plot of the new book she's writing starts to mirror real-world events in real time. In many ways, Argylle has a Kingsman vibe to it, but a watered down version of Kingsman. It has a 12A rating and it very much feels like a 12A movie. Yeah, there's a lot of violence, there's people getting shot and beat up, but it's definitely Matthew Vaughn in a way reined in and very watered down. At the same time, it's very much Matthew Vaughn times 10, if that's even possible. Well, it is possible because that's how I felt Argylle felt. And I'll be honest with you, I was missing that edge, that edginess of his previous movies, which I personally felt like was severely lacking within this movie, Argylle, which I don't think would have affected me that much, but due to how I felt about this movie as an overall experience, I do feel like that edginess, I was missing that edginess a hell of a lot more as a result of how this film plays out and sort of how I felt towards this film as an overall experience. That's not me saying that I feel like every Matthew Vaughn movie needs to be, R-rated and ultra-violent like that church, like that fantastic church scene in the first Kingsman movie. I'm not saying that, but I just feel like due to the silliness and sort of how over the top this movie is, I just found myself really kind of missing that edginess to the movie that I'm used to with a majority of Matthew Vaughn's movies. And so, even if in many ways this movie for me was Matthew Vaughn watered down or reined in, this was also Matthew Vaughn times 10. And I mean that in a bad way. Now, don't get me wrong, I did have a lot of fun in this movie in certain moments. Like, there's a lot of moments which I thought were really fun. I did enjoy. They are very over the top. But between the very clanky setup of this story to the characters and the writing and the very ropey CGI, like the CGI in places is just really bad. It all just ended up feeling... This overall experience just ended up feeling very weightless and empty. Like, it gets so over the top and silly and bonkers. There is no real weight to this movie for you to get really kind of invested into these characters and journeys. Like, you could have a very silly premise. Like, I quite like the premise of this movie. I like the ideas, but it's how these ideas and how this story comes together which really kind of felt stretched out. Like, it's really stretched thin over a very basic plot. I just feel like that this overall experience just needed to be a little bit more refined and focused with what it was wanting to be or trying to be, because for me personally, it was a blend of genres. It was a blend of different types of movies. It's a parody, it's a comedy, it's a spy thriller. You got all these twists and these turns, and it's a mix of different genres and different just types of movies. And for me, it doesn't all quite come together as smoothly as it should, I felt, and it feels, or the entire experience just felt at times very clunky and awkward. And I think that was in every aspect of this film, whenever it comes to character moments and the writing with the performances. It all at times just felt very awkward and clunky, with the CGI, with the very ropey, poor CGI thrown on top. And I really like the premise of this movie. I really like the ideas, and I really like those twists and turns with the story and what it is they do with the story. But I just felt like it was stretched thin over a very, very basic plot, and it's that clunkiness and that awkwardness with the writing that really sort of comes through due to the fact of sort of how this overall experience is, for me personally, stretched thin over this 2 hour and 20-minute runtime. But I'm not going to deny I did have a lot of fun when it comes to the action within this movie. Yes, it's silly. Yes, it's over the top and bonkers. But I was enjoying those moments. I was having a good time, but the problems I had with this movie was the setup. and sort of how this narrative flowed, and all those moments in between these very kind of crazy bonkers, you know, sort of action scenes. And that resulted in sort of the entire experience just not really working for me, because I couldn't really get invested or really care, to be honest with you. And I just found myself just looking forward to the next action scene so I could just have a little bit of fun, like. For example, there's a scene in the third act in a corridor with Sam Rockwell's character and Bryce Dallas Howard's character. And it's in the trailers briefly, where you've got this kind of coloured gas. And it's a fun scene, it's a fun moment, it's classic Matthew Vaughn. Again, it is missing a bit of edge. And it's a scene that plays on a little bit too long, but I'm not saying that in a negative way, because I like the fact that the scene goes on longer than I felt like it should have. But it's because, you know, it is a fun moment, I'm enjoying it, but ultimately it very kind of just lacked the weight that I felt like the scene needed, or any sort of build up to it even. It just lacked that kind of punch that I felt like this moment should have had, because the way in which the scene plays out, it's, you know, it's a well shot scene, it is fun, you know, it makes you chuckle because of how silly it is. But like those very similar moments that you get from previous Matthew Vaughn's movies, it kind of just lacks that weight and punch that I felt like the scene needed. Like, visually, I was intrigued, but it really did nothing for me other than that, and other than just being sort of like, oh, like, yeah, this is a bit of fun, you know, that's a little bit funny, but that's about it. There is a moment within the third act where a certain character winks back at another character, and that's all I'm gonna say. But it's in that moment that I came to the realization, or the conclusion, that this film is basically Matthew Vaughn just going, you know what, fuck it, just have fun and just have a blast. And you know what, that's okay, I don't mind that, but the problem for me was the film really kind of just lacked that identity. Like, you don't really get that kind of, you don't really get a gist of what this film's identity is from that first scene, or from the opening moment, due to how clunky the setup is, and just how clunky the sort of the overall narrative plays out. And it's just in that moment, I felt like that moment just came a little bit too late, because I'm sat there and it you know what, it's so fucking silly that it made me laugh. I chuckled, but I'm like, right, okay, I think I get the film, but perhaps that moment was a little bit too late, and I'm like, whatever, like, I'd already checked out at that point. For me, this film lacks the charm, the character, and the edge of previous Matthew Vaughn movies. It felt sloppy, it felt messy, and it just really just didn't come together for me. I don't think it needed to be 2 hours and 20 minutes. I liked a lot of the ideas, and I do like the premise. I just think it needed to be a little bit more focused and refined. Yes, keep that kind of very bonkers, sort of over-the-top approach, but I felt like it needed a little bit more edge to really kind of balance it out perhaps a little bit, like Vaughn's previous movies, like Kingsman. So yeah, Argylle, big disappointment for me. I do believe there's a good movie in here somewhere. And, you know, there are times that it made me chuckle, but also I wasn't sure at times if I was actually laughing with the movie or actually at it. So yeah, they are my thoughts on Matthew Vaughn's latest Argylle, and I will be giving Argylle a 4.5 out of 10. So yeah, they are my thoughts on Argylle, but what did you guys think of it? Did you love it, or did you hate it? Did you agree or disagree with anything I've said? Then please let me know in the comments below, and let's get a discussion going. And if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to watch future reviews from just some random Welsh geek rambling on, then please hit the subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. I'm going to catch the Iron Claw this weekend. It's released this weekend here in the UK, but again, it's another one of those movies that the States got towards the end of last year, and only now are we getting it here in the UK. So I am aware of a lot of the positive buzz coming from this movie, so I'm really looking forward to checking it out and bringing you guys my thoughts on the Iron Claw. So that will be my next review. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll be catching you guys soon.